or the decrease in fares. That's one example I'm using, because some of these parameters are sticky. When they go up, inflationary pressures many times are sticky. Going up is usually very default setting, because of the cost push, inflation. Option number one. The option number two is to be laissez-faire and let the market do their work and let the economy find its path. So I thought that the latter would put us into a situation as an economy which we may take too long to recover. Reasoning being, some of the variables of the economy, when, for example, fuel prices go up, we saw immediately the following day that our brothers and sisters in the transport sector also had a press conference with the intention of increasing fares. That has happened before. I can witness through history periods where we saw press conferences of increasing, for example, fares. But I'm here to see one of when the situation then becomes better. I've never seen a press conference of calling for the deceleration or the decrease in fares. That's one example I'm using, because some of these parameters are sticky. When they go up, inflationary pressures many times are sticky. Going up is usually very default setting, because of the cost push, inflation. Coming down, however, is usually very sticky. So I thought probably we may end up letting things flow, but then we pay a dire price to the economy in the future. Secondly, it is written there, as I have written there, is that the amount of money, because I've calculated, that will be required in terms of injections, either through subsidies or through the forfeiture of revenue, I thought it is a fair price to pay, other than the humongous price the economy may pay in the future. Because parameters don't increase at the same margin that fuel increases. They increase by multiples. So we'll end up, therefore, mopping up a lot of disposable income from the people, other than just safeguarding them through that expenditure. So, Chairman, if you allow, I'll go now to specifics. And the letter I wrote, the clerk was very forthright on the things we should handle in this committee, because I think in the wisdom of the parliamentary bureaucracy was that there are also some matters to be handled in the other committee. So the one of the things, I will not read the whole letter, but some of the things that I was required to come with is to facilitate the committee's deliberations. You are required to submit on the following matters. One, the anticipated impact of the proposal on the overall fuel prices and the extent of the expected reduction for consumers. That is very important. And honorable members, the impact to the fuel prices, because I majorly handled super and diesel, because Kenya consumes around 240 million liters of diesel a month, and around 185 million liters of super a month. So the margin or the segment of kerosene was too marginal in terms of the expenditure. So the data I'll be using in the presentation of this committee is majorly for the two. And what will happen after these proposals, if they were to be taken holistically, is that we are going to reduce the fuel prices. Super will come to around 187 shillings, and diesel will be just around 189 shillings. And going to the next, the implication of the proposed reduction on the RMLF for this current year and the next. I think, Chairman, before I answer this, it's good that I also give the holistic proposals that I have, so that as I answer the remaining two, we can have that context. So if you look at the pricing of super, around 74 shillings of super is in terms of taxes and levies. If you go to diesel, it's around 67 shillings. That is taxes and levies. But also there are margins of 17 shillings, profit margins for importers and also for the marketers. So my proposal has been fourfold. The first proposal, and I'll start with the one that we may not deal so much in this committee, was the reduction of 4 shillings from the exporters and the distributors' margins, which are currently 17 shillings. I thought previously, like 5 years ago, there were 12 shillings. I thought desperate times like these ones would call for the players to tighten their belts. So that's why the proposal was the reduction by 4 shillings. The second one was the reduction of VAT from the current 8% to 0%, which technically we call it tax exempt. And that, Honorable Chair, will save both super and diesel 15 and 17 shillings respectively. The other proposal was the reduction of RMLF. And that RMLF currently starts at 25 shillings. And the reduction I am proposing is for the 7 shillings that was added in 2024, so that we go to what the figure was of Kenya shillings 18. And the last one was to draw some money from the Fuel Stabilization Fund of around 3.5 billion currently, so that we subsidize further the prices of diesel to come to the figure that I gave. Those are the issues. So to the question on the ramification is that on RMLF, it is a reduction of 7 shillings, just to answer the question specifically. And on the VAT, it is around 15 and 17 shillings respectively. And also cumulatively in the budget, it is just taking the figure of 185 million liters plus 240 million liters of diesel, which comes to 425 million liters. In terms of RMLF, you times by 7, it comes to approximately 2.95 trillion, billion Kenya shillings. And in terms of VAT, is also calculated, and I have it is already in the submissions. The third question was the proposed impact of the proposal on the road maintenance, financing, and infrastructure development in Kenya. Honorable Chair, the proposal would depend on how we treat it as this committee and the finance committee. In my holistic consideration, my consideration is that any cut in the budget, any cut in the revenue side, out of the proposed measures, instead of adjusting the specific budgets of the specific sector, we go to the expenditure side and look at where we can get some retro fat in the budget so that we work around it there. So the impact may not necessarily be on roads. On RMLF, it may be of the 7 shillings. But you know, Chair and members, the budget for roads is majorly in 3 forms. One is what we call domestically funded. It's usually like a third or thereabout. The second one is externally funded. We used to call it development partners budget, which also by that time accounting for like a third or so. And then the third part is what we call recurrent. And recurrent is what we actually call RMLF in cumulative. So the budget then comes in 3 streams. If we squeeze in one stream, it can be the wisdom of this committee to actually expand either of the other 2 streams, because they are predominantly a domain of this committee. So we can choose If we want to reduce the budget of road maintenance by 7 shillings, we can still recover the same money through the domestically funded budget of the same road sector budget. 4, the impact of the proposed pronouncement of the 10 shillings. This one has 2 ramifications depending on how we understand it and how I understood it. The reduction that was announced of 10 shillings in Mombasa was not clear whether it is the sustaining of the 10 shillings that is in force now, as it was announced in Nairobi after the meeting with stakeholders, or it's an additional 10. So if it's the current 10, therefore it means we'll just be sustaining the interventions that are there currently. And if it's the additional 10, it means we'll be requiring to fetch in 2.4 billion Kenya shillings from the Fuel Stabilization Fund, working with 240 million litres of diesel per month. The fifth one, which I think is the last one, is any proposed alternative on the revenue-raising measures. Chairman and committee members, this is two-pronged also. The current proposals will be needing approximately a funding of 9.8 billion, all of them. So in 8 months, it will come to approximately 60. But because I also did some analysis in terms of when there are shocks, the behavior of the supply side versus the behavior of the demand side. And it was obvious that when there are supply shocks on the side of supply, on the side of fuel, most of the time, definitely, there is also a shock of demand. Shock of demand meaning the current consumption of 240 million litres of diesel is based on a good day. But we are not in a good day currently in terms of pricing. So if you do the graph of all the other of all the other times you have disruptions, you realize that also demand goes down. So I'm working approximately at the actual money spent at around 48 to 50 billion Kenya shillings. Therefore, the way I'm talking about, the explanation of two-prong is in this way. One, we may decide to cut the revenue side. And therefore, cutting the revenue side, to balance the budget, then we cut the expenditure side. And that is why I think I was, the clerks saw it fit that I appear before the budget committee, and not just the finance committee alone. So that's one. The second thing is that the country may decide to input this as part of the deficit. That's another thing. The other thing is that we may decide just to cut the size of our shirt according to the size of the cloth. And maybe that is why I'm here. So all that balancing, what I have done is to look at areas we can actually cut the fat so that the budget balances. So that as we cut the revenue side by the amount of around 48 to 50 billion, then on the other side, we may have commensurate cuts in terms of the expenditure. And the expenditure I'm proposing is the expenditure that does not harm service delivery to Kenyans in any way. And some of those items that I am proposing is the cut in the travel budget across the board in terms of the entire government meaning all the 3 arms, parliament, judiciary, and the executive. That's one. The second thing is to target areas in the budget where we have seen abnormal increments in this financial year. And those areas, if you permit, I'll be giving them explicitly. Areas we have seen increment of budget, let's say by 20% within one financial year. That can be an area where people can also get in some recoveries. And also, lastly, is the budget of operations and maintenance, which have been able to pinpoint specific areas where we can go into if that is permitted. Thank you very much. I submit.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, for, first of all, your appearance and also for the submission which you have put before us. Members have been listening keenly to your submissions, and I believe they also have the written submission. So I think quickly I would like to allow members to make interventions on your submission, and then we will be able to close this meeting within the next possible 20 minutes, members. So yes, Honorable Chikati, let's start with you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair Emeritus, thank you very much for this presentation, very concise and innovative. My question is, when you are the chair of the Budget Committee, VAT on fuel was 16%. Now it is 8%. And you want to propose that it moves to 0%. These innovative ideas, why didn't you use them when you are the chairman and bring them up when you are the chairman at that time when it was 16%? Secondly, Chair, in these areas which you have mentioned that they have witnessed abnormal increments, were these increments in the various sectors, were they there when you are the chairman, or you've just noticed them when you are not the chairman? Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, Honorable Kenan.
Thank you, Chairman. Karibu Bwana Ndindi. Chairman, thank you. I want to thank the Honorable Ndindi for finding time to come and appear before this committee. All of us are here are members of Parliament, and we understand the constitutional role of the Member of Parliament is legislation, oversight, budget making, and representation. These are very important, generalized suggestions. Have you thought of contextualizing the same into a bill that will go through the legal, public, administrative, parliamentary stages? Because you can see some of the things that you're suggesting is not something that can be done through a roadside declaration. Two, and maybe these I expect either yes or no, we're also aware that the budget making process, first and foremost, is constitutional. Two, just like all over the world, and Kenya being part of the civilized world, it's also political. Three, it's also driven by party manifestos. But that party manifesto, again, does not limit, because you can also have an alternative. That's why in other civilized world we have the alternative position on anything that the party in power also says. And fourth, and more fundamentally, is public driven. Some of us are privileged. I've known you as even when you worked with Honorable Irungo Kangata, I've known you as a member of Parliament. I've interacted with you as the chair of this committee. In the Kenya scenario, Chairman, and this is the most unfortunate part, we speak from both sides, depending on where we are at that particular time. And that's why we are not doing well as a country. What is missing is the consistency, honesty, people-driven, people tailor-made policy pronouncement. We change. It's like weather. today, because I am here politically and this is convenient, I just want to circumvent all the other process and say, this is what I think. Because all of us here have taken an oath to stand and protect and even say project the image of this Premier Republic. That's why I've taken an oath of office as a member of Parliament for LS. So I want to ask my good friend here, these suggestions are very good, but you also remember, this is not the first time that when this crisis, this is my last part, this crisis was there immediately after the election. And you are privileged to have been the chairman of this very important committee. And this is not going to be again the last challenge. I'm sure the world is very dynamic. The whole international environment is, climate is convoluted, and therefore we are likely, we may be through with the Iranian, American, Middle East challenges, but we may that again route to something else. What are the differences at that time in terms of you as the chair then and right now being the chair emeritus and the circumstances immediately after the countdown of 2022 and the circumstances right now during this war vis-a-vis these proposals? Thank you, Chairman.
Members,
I would like something.
Chairman, I just want to allow members to ask, then you just respond wholesome. But would you not want to take all the questions and respond at the end?
Chairman, I'm just requesting for your indulgence.
Yes.
Because I'm a human being, and I want to give the best answers for the questions.
Yes.
Let's not take more than 4 in terms of rounds. That's my observation.
Okay, so we have taken 2. So let me have Vice Chairman and the Honorable Nyakundi. Then we'll take those first 4. Then we take the next 4. Members, I think let's do just 2 rounds, so that we don't waste a lot of time. Because at the end, members, we are going to retreat. We are going to retreat to consider these proposals as we finalize our budget estimate. So I think let's be constrained.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro. Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, this fuel crisis is not just affecting Kenya; it's affecting the whole world due to the war in Middle East between the U.S. and Iran. Would you be able to tell us which other country you have benchmarked your proposals from? Because this is happening worldwide, and I'm a doctor, I'm not an economist, but I would want to understand where else have you benchmarked these proposals that you are coming up with and it is working. Secondly, on the reduction of the 7 shilling fuel levy, you understand that this is on the road maintenance levy. You understand that we have 7 shillings for the securitization on the infrastructure fund. Could you be having other motives that you are targeting that infrastructure fund so that the government is not able to deliver on its infrastructure? And lastly, the President pronounced himself after meeting with the team that will have a reduction in the next cycle by the April of 10 shillings. But there was this other reduction which was agreed between the transporters of 10 shillings. You made a statement that it seems it's not very clear. But as a layman, when I go to the petrol station, I'm able now to put fuel into my car diesel at 232. Initially, it had gone to 242. So how do you understand that 10 shillings reduction? Is it not happening, or you seem not to have a very clear understanding of that reduction? because I think there are two reductions. One will occur in the next cycle, and this other one occurred instantly when the team met and agreed to suspend this, to stop the strike. Thank you, Chair.
Nyakundi, you're the last, then Ndindi can respond.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, my brother, Honorable Ndindi Nyoro, for your presentation. First of all, most of the proposals, I think, should come from Parliament as bills from what I've gone through. Number two, my brother, the Vice Chair, has spoken about it. The 7 shillings that you want reduced from RMLF. When you were the chairman here, we had an issue. We had an issue of stalled roads that we could not be able to get funding for. Out of wisdom from other sources or other people, we were able to securitize that money and were able to pay pending bills, and the roads that had stalled were able to be done, and new roads are currently being done because of the securitization that some wise people somewhere sat down and thought about it. When you say we reduce that money, you want to tell us, you want us to go back to where we were when you were the chairman of the Budget and Appropriations Committee. Lastly,